The red and blue lights bled through the rain as Jordan Ellis's black Tesla rolled to a quiet stop. Midtown's glass towers shimmered like cold witnesses. She had just closed a $400 million merger an hour ago. She was being pulled over outside her own firm's building. A white officer leaned into the drizzle, smirking before his boots even hit the pavement. "Evening, ma'am," he said, tapping her window. "Mind telling me who really owns this car?" Jordan lowered the glass halfway, her reflection fractured by water. "It's mine," she said evenly, voice low, calm, the kind of calm that keeps empires from cracking. He laughed, the kind of laugh that says, "I already decided who you are." Behind him, the second officer circled the Tesla like a vulture. One lifted the door handle. "Step out, please," the smirking one said. "You match the description of a suspect." "Fraud case?" Her pulse quickened. Cameras glowed from phones across the street and lookers recording. No one stepping forward. The rain hit harder, louder, like static on bad news. "Officer," she said, eyes fixed on his badge. "I'm the CEO of Ellison Equity Partners." He tilted his head, amused. "Sure you are." His hand rested on his holster. A flash of lightning carved the street in white. Jordan's phone buzzed inside her bag, an incoming call from the Wall Street Journal. She looked at the screen, then at him. 1 breath, 1 second. The officer's laugh echoed again, sharp and hollow. And then another voice crackled through his radio. "Be advised, subject identified. High-profile individual. Do not engage." The smirk vanished. The street went still. Jordan didn't blink. She only said, "Too late." Rain whispered across the windshield as Jordan Ellis slowed her Tesla before the glass entrance of Ellison Equity Partners. The building stood like a mirror, her reflection, her creation. She had just left a dinner with clients who toasted her as the woman who tamed Wall Street. Now, 2 flashes of blue split the night behind her. She sighed, placed the car in park, and rolled down her window halfway. The wipers clicked in slow rhythm. A white officer approached, his flashlight cutting into her face. "License and registration," he said flatly. Jordan handed them over without hesitation. "Was I speeding, officer?" He didn't answer. Instead, he studied her ID, then glanced at the Tesla's interior. "Nice car. Borrow it from the boss." The rain thickened. Jordan forced a neutral tone. "No, I am the boss." The second officer appeared, dripping under the awning, peering through the back seat. "Plates match a vehicle connected to a fraud case," he said. "That's impossible," she replied. "This vehicle was registered." "Step out of the car," the first officer interrupted. She paused. Her hand hovered over the handle. Behind the glass, employees exiting the lobby stopped, staring. No one moved closer. "Officer," she said carefully, "you have my identification. You can verify it in 30 seconds. He smiled a small, knowing smirk. "I'll verify it when you're standing outside." Her pulse ticked in her throat. She stepped out, heels clicking on wet asphalt. The rain soaked her silk blouse in seconds. The second officer circled again, then leaned toward the other. "Doesn't look like a CEO to me." Jordan heard it. Everyone did. She stood straight. "You're making a mistake." The first officer spread his arms slightly. "Then you've got nothing to worry about, right?" Phones appeared, screens lighting up behind umbrellas. The murmurs spread like static. Jordan caught fragments. "Is that the Ellison lady? Why are they?" Her voice stayed steady, though her hands trembled inside her pockets. "I'm Jordan Ellis, CEO of Ellison Equity Partners. You are detaining me without cause." The officer's laugh cracked through the rain. "Sure you are, and I'm the King of England." The sound hit her like a slap. She looked at his badge. "Hale, call your supervisor," she said. He ignored her, radioing casually. "Unit 43, possible suspect fraud vehicle, resisting verbal command." Her breath caught. "That's a lie," she said, louder now. "Ma'am, lower your tone. I will not." The standoff froze under the streetlight. The hum of passing cars faded. Every eye on the street seemed to burn. Then her phone vibrated in her bag. She glimpsed the caller ID, Wall Street Journal, exclusive follow-up, before she could reach it. The dispatcher's voice crackled through Hale's radio. "Be advised, the subject is confirmed. Jordan Ellis, CEO, financial executive. Disengage immediately." Asterisk, the second officer stiffened. Hale didn't move. His jaw clenched. Doc Jordan looked at him, rain dripping from her lashes. "You were saying." He opened his mouth, closed it, looked away. The cameras kept rolling. For the first time, Hale's smirk faltered. The silence that followed was heavier than the rain dot, and Jordan realized the damage was already done by sunrise. Jordan's name was everywhere, The videoed two officers laughing as they detained the wrong woman looped across morning news screens like a wound that wouldn't close. Hashtags multiplied faster than facts. Hashtag Ellison incident trended globally before she had even had coffee. She sat at her marble kitchen island, the news anchor's voice hollow in the echoing space. A misunderstanding, according to police sources. A viral moment sparking new debate about racial profiling in corporate America. Her PR chief, Linda Chen, spoke through the phone speaker, crisp and urgent. We've got investors asking for statements. Journalists circling. I need you to say something, anything that calms this down. Jordan's tone was measured. The video speaks for itself. Exactly why we can't let it define you, Linda shot back. You're being framed as the angry executive. We need composure, control, a quote that shows grace. Jordan looked at her reflection in the darkened window. Grace, control, composure, the words she'd been taught to weaponize against every slight. I was humiliated, she said quietly, on my own property. Then let us channel that into a statement. No, not yet. There was a silence. Jordan, with respect, silence is a statement. Then, let it speak. She hung up. Outside, the city glistened with post-rain light. Somewhere down those streets, Officer Hale was probably laughing again, insulated by a department that would call it a procedural misstep. Her assistant Maya appeared in the doorway holding her laptop. You should see this. The footage replayed Hale's smirk frozen in mid. Underneath, the department's official response scrolled. We regret the confusion during last night's identification check. The officers acted within standard protocol. Standard protocol, Jordan murmured. For who? Maya's jaw tightened. The mayor's office is already downplaying it. They're protecting their image. Jordan stood, pacing the length of the kitchen. It's not just their image. It's our silence that keeps it clean. Maya hesitated. Then let's not be silent. You could file a civil complaint, make this public. Jordan turned sharply. You think a complaint changes anything? They'll investigate themselves. They'll clear themselves. Her phone buzzed again, this time a text from her board chairman. We need you to stay out of the headlines. Markets are watching. Handle this quietly. Markets, investors, optics. She closed her eyes, inhaled deeply, and let the fury settle into something colder. I built this firm to prove that power could look like me, and now I have to prove I deserve it again. Maya lowered her gaze. They won't see you as a victim, Jordan. They'll see you as a threat. Jordan turned toward the city skyline, each glass tower gleaming like a mirror of judgment. Then they'll see me clearly. Hours later, at Ellison Equity's headquarters, her staff froze when she entered. Conversations died mid. Screens flickered with paused clips of her confrontation. She walked straight to her office, shoulders squared. Linda was already waiting inside, tablet in hand. Damage control. Linda began. We've scheduled a private call with the police chief this afternoon. Keep it civil. Let them apologize. We'll leak that they're reviewing policy. It'll cool the fire. Jordan studied her, then asked softly, whose fire are we cooling? Linda mean or theirs? The silence hung. Linda's professionalism faltered. Yours, eventually. Jordan nodded. Schedule the call. By noon, she sat before a gray screen, the chief's pixelated face appearing like a ghost of authority. Miss Ellis, he said in a carefully balanced tone, we regret last night's unfortunate incident. Officer Hale followed a vehicle alert. Misidentifications happen. Jordan's fingers tapped the desk once. You're saying your system flags black women in luxury cars as suspects? Of course not. The officer laughed. She cut in, twice, while detaining me under false suspicion. Is that in your protocol too? The chief blinked, shifting. We understand your frustration. Internal Affairs will review. Save the performance, Jordan said. Her voice had dropped to steel. You don't want to fix this. You want me quiet. The chief's expression flattened. That would be best for everyone. The call ended. Jordan stared at the blank screen, heartbeat steady, thoughts racing. For the first time since last night, she knew exactly what she was going to do. She opened her laptop and began drafting an internal memo subject line. When power pretends not to see. It wouldn't go to the police. It would go to her team. And when the world read it, it would start to burn. The conference room inside the Metropolitan Police headquarters smelled faintly of disinfectant and politics. Frosted glass, pale walls, a coffee urn no one touched. Jordan sat across from 3 men in uniform and 1 woman from Internal Affairs who kept tapping a pen against her tablet as if taking minutes for history that would never be published. Chief Darnell Grant adjusted his tie before speaking. Miss Ellis, thank you for coming in on such short notice. We appreciate your cooperation. Jordan folded her hands, the only movement betraying her irritation. A slow exhale. Cooperation implies mutual purpose. Chief, I'm here for clarity. The Internal Affairs officer glanced up. We're conducting a full review of the incident. Officer Hale followed an automated flag on your vehicle's VIN. It appears the system cross-referenced a stolen car database. Jordan's voice remained even. Then, your system or the people who manage it are broken. Grant interjected smoothly. Technology isn't perfect. Neither are humans. But we all learn and move forward. She stared at him. I was detained on false grounds, mocked, filmed, and left to defend my reputation before breakfast. Is that what you call moving forward? He gave the politician's smile conciliatory. Empty. No one here wants this to define you. Jordan's reply was immediate. It already has. A pause. The woman from Internal Affairs cleared her throat. You've built a remarkable career, Ms. Ellis. We'd hate for this misunderstanding to overshadow that achievement. Jordan caught the phrasing, we'd hate for this to overshadow your success. Not we'd hate that it happened to you. She leaned back, the leather creaking softly. You're suggesting I protect my brand by protecting yours. The woman's pen stopped tapping. Grant's tone hardened. Let's be reasonable. The officers will undergo refresher training. A public apology could refresher training. Jordan interrupted. For what? Recognizing that black executives own cars. The room chilled. The deputy chief shifted uncomfortably. Grant sighed. You're upset, understandably. But pushing this further will only invite more media noise. You've already made your point. Jordan's gaze cut through him. My point hasn't even started. Asterisk, he leaned forward. Off the record. Ms. Ellis, take the apology. Rebuild your narrative. Don't let this become your legacy. For a moment, she almost laughed at the irony. Men who never had to rebuild anything telling her how to manage damage they caused. Her phone buzzed on the table. A text from Maya. Hale spotted leaving HQ laughing again. Reporters outside. Jordan turned the phone face down. Tell me, Chief, when an officer stops a white executive in a Mercedes, do you call that a system glitch too? He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. She rose, gathering her bag. Then this meeting is over. The Internal Affairs officer spoke softly, almost pleading. Miss Ellis, you could help us craft better policy if you joined our advisory panel. An image of cooperation. Jordan paused by the door. I'm not interested in your image. I'm interested in accountability. When she stepped into the hallway, Maya was waiting, eyes wide. How'd it go? Jordan didn't slow down. They want silence, dressed up as diplomacy. Typical, Maya muttered. We could leak the recording, make them squirm. Jordan shook her head. Not yet. Let them believe they managed me. They'll relax. As they exited the building, reporters surged forward. Cameras flashed. Ms. Ellis, did the department apologize? Are you pursuing legal action? Do you think race played a role? She stopped on the steps, rain threatening again above the skyline. Every lens pointed at her felt like both weapon and witness. Jordan said clearly, I believe the city has a habit of apologizing only when it's convenient. That's all for now. Flashes erupted. She walked through them without looking back. In the car, Maya whispered, You just declared war. Jordan stared ahead, voice quiet but certain. No, I just stopped pretending peace exists. That night, she sat alone in her office, lights off, skyline glowing beyond the glass. The city's hum pressed against the silence like a pulse. She opened her email, began drafting a new file titled Internal Memos, Departmental Culture, Confidential. Each keystroke was deliberate. Evidence first, exposure later. The email leaked on a Wednesday morning. No one knew who sent it. Tony. That it originated from inside the Metropolitan Police Department. The subject line read, FW Friday night's traffic stop. Attached were screenshots, private messages between Officer Hale and his partner. Lines of text that stripped the last layer of plausible deniability from the department's mouth hole. Turns out, she was the CEO. Guess I should have asked to see her credit score instead of her ID. Partner, she looked ready to sue God himself. Hope Internal Affairs likes paperwork. Hale, relax. She cooled off. They always do. Within hours, the screenshots were everywhere. On Twitter threads, morning talk shows, finance blogs. The officers' names trended beside Jordan's. At Ellison Equity. Phones didn't stop ringing. Clients wanted reassurance. Journalists wanted quotes. Staff wanted direction. Jordan gave them silence and precision. No statements, she told Linda. Not until they buried themselves. By noon, the city erupted. Protesters gathered outside police headquarters, holding cardboard signs streaked with rain. Stop laughing. CEOs aren't bulletproof. Accountability now. Inside her glass office, Jordan watched the live coverage. Reporters shouted into microphones as sirens wailed in the background. Maya appeared, breathless. It's out. All of it. You didn't do this, right? Jordan didn't answer. She didn't need to. The truth had escaped on its own, the kind of truth that doesn't need permission. Linda entered next, her tone sharp with panic. We need a strategy. Investors are calling me now. They want to know if you'll address it publicly. If you stay quiet, it looks like you orchestrated it. Jordan's eyes never left the screen. Good, let them wonder. Linda's patience snapped. Jordan, this isn't just about you. This firm employs hundreds of people. Your silence has consequences. Jordan turned to her, calm but unflinching. So did theirs. The words hung like smoke. Linda left without replying. Maya moved closer. They're saying the mayor might speak this evening to ease tensions. Jordan's lips curved faintly. He'll apologize for the optics, not the system. Her phone buzzed a number she didn't recognize. She hesitated, then answered. This is Jordan Ellis. A man's voice, low, careful. Ms. Ellis, this is Robert Stein, with the National Ledger. We've obtained records showing Officer Hale had 3 prior complaints to racial profiling, 1 falsified report, all dismissed by internal review. We're publishing at 6. Jordan said nothing for a moment, just let the sound of justice turning gears wash over her. Thank you, she said finally, and ended the call. Maya's jaw dropped. 3 complaints, buried, Jordan said. Like always. Outside, the protests swelled. Helicopters cut the sky. The chant carried through glass. Say her name. Say her name. Jordan turned off the television. This isn't about me, she murmured. It's about what they built to protect men like him. Later that night, she sat alone in her penthouse, watching the city flicker with unrest. Her inbox overflowed with interview requests. CNN, The Times, even a late-night talk show. She ignored them all. Instead, she opened a folder of documents Maya had compiled. Budget reports, procurement contracts, disciplinary statistics. Each line was evidence of a deeper disease. The front page was labeled, Public Record Requests Pending. She whispered the words aloud. Public record. For years, she'd mastered the art of silence, the strategic kind that made billionaires comfortable. Now that silence was a liability. The television flashed again, uninvited. The mayor stood behind a podium, voice smooth, rehearsed. We condemn the unprofessional behavior displayed by a few individuals. However, this does not represent our city's values. We will ensure fairness, transparency, and unity. Jordan stared at the screen, expression unreadable. Unity, she said softly, the language of people who never had to bleed for it. Her phone buzzed again, another message from an unknown source. This time, a video clip. She pressed play. Officer Hale, outside a bar, laughing with 2 colleagues. They act like I killed someone. I just asked a question. Ladies playing the race card like it's her job. The clip ended with Hale raising a glass to surviving the outrage economy. Jordan's hand tightened around the phone. Her reflection in the black screen looked nothing like the composed executive from last week. This face was something new, stripped of restraint, sharpened by purpose. She whispered to herself, almost clinically, survival, that's what they call it. Then she stood, crossed the room, and pulled a folder labeled Legal Strategy, Confidential, from her desk drawer. If the city wanted a symbol, she'd give them one, but not of exposure. Down below, protesters filled the street, chanting her name. Cameras panned upward toward her building's lighted windows. Jordan Ellis looked out, unflinching. Let them watch. Tomorrow, she'd start the fire herself. The boardroom was dark except for the glow of screens. Jordan sat at the head of the table, hands clasped, the same posture she'd used to close billion-dollar mergers. Only now, her opponent wasn't a corporation, but a system built to erase people like her. Maya connected her laptop to the projector. Documents filled the wall, internal police budgets, complaint files, body cam audits, redacted names. These are the last 10 years of misconduct reports, Maya said. 87 complaints. Only 2 resulted in suspension, both temporary. Jordan nodded slowly. And the rest? Administrative closures, insufficient evidence, Maya replied. It's policy armor. They built a machine to eat the truth. Linda entered late, looking exhausted. Jordan, I've spoken to the firm's counsel. They're begging you not to get involved beyond a statement. If this spirals, they'll say, you acted on behalf of Ellison Equity. Jordan's eyes flicked toward her. Tell them I act on behalf of myself. Linda hesitated. If you go to war with the department, you go to war with the city. You'll lose clients, investors, friends. Then I'll make sure it's worth losing. Silence. The air thickened around her words. Maya turned the slide. A list of names appeared, each one an officer with repeat complaints, including Hale. Jordan read them like a ledger of debt. Here, Maya said, highlighting a pattern. Complaint data shows Hale's cases were reassigned to the same investigator each time. Detective Saunders. Every dismissal came from his desk. Jordan leaned forward. Find Saunders' connection to the chief. Financial, familial, political. There's always a thread. Linda sighed, rubbing her temples. This isn't activism, Jordan. This is corporate warfare against a government body. Jordan's tone stayed quiet, measured. No, Linda. This is corporate warfare. They run their injustice like a business. I'm just better at accounting. Hours passed. The team worked in near silence. Screens flickering with Discovery public procurement spreadsheets, private emails, campaign donations. Jordan's focus was surgical. By midnight, they had a picture, a network of city contracts awarded to firms owned by relatives of police administrators, funds quietly diverted under consulting fees. Maya whispered, if this goes public, it's not just Hale on the line, it's the chief, the mayor, half the city. Jordan exhaled. Then we won't hand it to the press yet. We build the case. Facts first, outrage later. Linda frowned. You're talking about exposing corruption across institutions. You don't have protection for that. Jordan met her eyes. Protection didn't stop them from humiliating me on camera. Why would I need it now? Maya looked between them. So what's the plan? Jordan stood, facing the skyline outside the boardroom window. The city shimmered, bellow orderly, indifferent. We leak selectively, she said. Let the story build layer by layer. Each revelation forces a reaction. They'll scramble, deny, contradict themselves. The public will connect the dots before we do. And the police? Linda asked. They'll call it a witch hunt. Then they'll make mistakes trying to hide their guilt. Maya smirked faintly. And when the chief realizes you're behind it, Jordan's reflection in the glass was steady. By then, it'll be too late. She turned back to them. Tomorrow, reach out to Robert Stein. Give him just enough Hale's complaint history. The name Saunders. A hint about procurement links. Nothing traceable to us. Linda looked at her long, then said softly, you're becoming what they fear most. Jordan's voice was almost a whisper. A black woman who doesn't flinch. When the meeting ended, she remained alone. The city lights pulsed against the glass like warning signals. On her desk sat the original memo she'd written after the stop when power pretends not to see. She picked it up, reread a single line. Silence is how systems breathe. Then she took out her pen and added one more. Exposure is how they suffocate. She slid the page into a folder labeled Phase 2. The hearing room smelled of paper, sweat, and authority. Every seat was filled. Press in the back. Council members in pressed suits. The chief of police centered behind a long oak table. Cameras stood like rifles. Jordan entered without ceremony. No security escort, no entourage, just her, a black folder, and an expression that had no intention of performing humility. The council chair, Senator Briggs, cleared his throat. Miss Ellison, thank you for appearing. You requested this session be public. Yes, Jordan said. Transparency works best when it's inconvenient. A murmur rippled across the room. The chief shifted, eyes narrowing. Briggs adjusted his glasses. We understand you have concerns about Officer Hale's conduct during your incident. Jordan opened her folder. It's not a concern, Senator. It's a record. She placed 3 printed pages before him. 10 years of complaints. 85 from civilians. 2 from within the department, all closed without consequence. The same investigator on each file. Detective Saunders. Briggs skimmed the papers, expression tightening. These are serious allegations. They're not allegations. Jordan cut in. They're outcomes. The data is public. I've simply assembled what your own oversight committee ignored. Reporters' pens scratched like insects. The chief leaned forward, his voice measured but cold. Ms. Ellison, internal review is complex. You're not in a position to interpret disciplinary policy. Jordan looked at him evenly. And you're not in a position to redefine misconduct as paperwork. The chief's jaw tensed. You're trying to weaponize data without context. You're creating distrust in law enforcement. Jordan smiled faintly. I'm not creating anything. I'm revealing what already exists. The silence that followed was brittle. Briggs cleared his throat again. The kind of nervous tick bureaucrats develop when truth starts leaking in real time. You've also made claims about financial irregularities within the department's budget. Jordan nodded to Maya, seated a few rows behind. Maya stood, connected her laptop to the projector. The screen flickered spreadsheets, procurement documents, shell company records. Jordan narrated as the data appeared. Over the last 6 fiscal years, $42 million was allocated to training consultancy. Those funds were distributed to firms owned by relatives of senior officers, including the chief's brother-in-law. Gasps, camera flashes. The chief's composure fractured for the first time. That's a distortion of Jordan didn't raise her voice. Every payment was authorized under your signature. The chief looked to Briggs. This is a smear campaign. Jordan's tone remained calm. Then prove me wrong. Release the contracts. Release the internal audits. Unless, of course, those two were insufficiently evidenced. Maya clicked to the next slide. The image of Jordan's own arrest, grainy stills from body cam footage. The moment Hale grabbed her arm, Jordan faced the council. This was not an isolated abuse. It was a symptom. When oversight fails, arrogance becomes culture. Briggs rubbed his temples. Ms. Ellison, what exactly are you seeking from this committee? One video froze her. A teenage boy, hands raised, pleading quietly. Hale laughing. The file timestamp was 2 years before her arrest. Maya whispered, that's pattern evidence. It's enough for federal oversight. Jordan's eyes glistened, not with victory but exhaustion. They'll say it's doctored. Then we make it impossible to ignore. Asterisk, 2 days later, Jordan walked back into the same council hall. This time, the audience was global. Reporters from London, Toronto, Johannesburg, screens broadcasting live to millions. She stood at the podium, voice steady. This is not about one officer, one department, or one city. It's about a system that budgets for misconduct and calls it training. Briggs shifted uncomfortably. Miss Ellison, are you saying these tapes are authentic? I'm saying they exist. Authenticity is for the courts. Accountability is for you. The footage played behind her body cam clips, timestamps, evidence logs. Gasps filled the room. Some officers lowered their heads, others crossed their arms, stiff and unmoving. When the screen went dark, Jordan said nothing more. She didn't need to. By evening, the chief's resignation letter leaked. By midnight, the mayor announced a full federal probe. By dawn, Hale's name was suspended under pending investigation. Jordan watched the sunrise from her balcony. The city felt heavier, as though something vast had shifted beneath its foundations. Maya joined her. You did it. Jordan didn't smile. No, I just made them look. Maya leaned on the railing. What now? Now, Jordan said, they'll try to erase the story. Maya frowned. And you? Jordan looked out toward the skyline, the towers like cold monuments to ambition. I'll write it again. Louder. Her phone buzzed. Another unknown message. They're not done. Neither are we. She closed it without replying. The sun cut across the city, turning glass into fire. Somewhere, an officer shredded documents. Somewhere else, a young intern archived every file onto a hidden drive. Systems never ended. They just changed their shape. Jordan tightened her coat. Let them come, she whispered. I built my empire from their ceilings. And for the first time in days, she smiled, small, tired, defiant. Rain carved silver lines down the courthouse glass as Jordan walked past the crowd. Reporters pressed forward, umbrellas clashing like shields. A dozen microphones rose. Ms. Ellison, how do you respond to the chief's indictment? Are the leaked files you're doing? Do you think the system can really change? Jordan didn't answer. Her silence had become language. Inside, the air buzzed with fluorescent tension. The federal hearing was in session. The people versus the Department of Metropolitan Enforcement, the city's largest corruption case in 20 years. Hale sat 2 rows ahead, dressed in a gray suit that still couldn't bleach the arrogance from his posture. The chief sat beside his lawyer, expression hollow. Maya leaned close. You sure you want to testify yourself? Jordan's eyes didn't move from the front. I was there. It matters that I speak. The bailiff called her name. The room quieted. She stepped to the stand, The prosecutor, a calm woman with sharp diction, began, Ms. Ellison, can you describe the incident that occurred on the morning of June 14th? Jordan nodded once. I was stopped outside my office, no reason given. Officer Hale approached. When I identified myself, he laughed. Do you recall his exact words? Jordan inhaled. He said, you don't look like a CEO. You look like someone we usually cuff. Gasps broke across the gallery. Hal shifted, jaw flexing. The prosecutor continued. What happened next? Jordan's voice stayed measured. He detained me, without cause. When I requested a badge number, he told me I should be grateful I wasn't on the ground. The defense attorney rose. Objection, Your Honor, hearsay and dramatization. The judge, a tired man with pale eyes, shook his head. Overruled. Let her finish. Jordan didn't blink. When I tried to explain who I was, he said, everyone says that when they're caught. Her hands trembled, but not from fear, from memory. That laughter followed me for weeks, through the boardroom, through every headline, until it wasn't humiliation anymore, it was evidence. The courtroom was still. Even the cameras seemed to hold their breath. The prosecutor turned. Ms. Ellison, are these the internal financial documents you presented to the city council? Yes. And you can confirm these transactions were approved under the chief's oversight? Yes. The chief spoke for the first time, voice brittle. We were told those funds were federal compliance grants. Jordan interrupted. And you signed them without reading. His silence was the answer. The prosecutor stepped closer. Why did you pursue this personally, Miss Ellison? You could have settled quietly. Jordan met her gaze. Because quiet is what built this. Silence is how power launders itself clean. The judge scribbled a note. The cameras clicked. Outside, the news cycle ignited again. CEO testifies against racist officer. Federal inquiry expands to mayor's office. Hale's lawyer requested a recess. His client's face was sweats. We can make this disappear, the lawyer whispered. Hale snapped. Not if she keeps talking. She's talking because you underestimated her. Hale's glare could have burned through glass. She's nothing without that name of hers. From behind them, a voice, and you're nothing without your badge. They turned. Maya stood in the hallway, phone recording, her face steady as stone. That evening, Jordan sat by her window, city lights flickering like signals. Maya entered, holding her tablet. It's done, Maya said quietly. The chief pleaded out. Hale's suspension is permanent. Federal oversight's taking control. Jordan's shoulders didn't relax. Justice feels smaller than it should. Because it's not clean, Maya said. But it's real. Jordan nodded, eyes wet. You ever think about what it costs to make the truth visible? All the time. They sat in silence. Rain hit the glass like static. Maya spoke first. You changed things. Jordan looked out at the skyline, towers shining against the wet dark. No. I reminded them change was possible. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You made us look, now help us rebuild. She stared at it, unreadable. Then she turned the phone face down. Days later, she stood at a press conference, not as a victim, not as a spectacle, as a voice. She faced the crowd. I didn't want fame. I wanted proof that dignity can survive power. And it has, not because of me, because of everyone who refused to unsee. Reporters scribbled. Cameras rolled. Her words were clipped, repeated, spread. Behind her, a new banner hung over the courthouse steps. Accountability is policy. Jordan descended the stairs slowly. Rain had stopped, but the air still smelled like aftermath, metallic and clean. For the first time in months, she let herself breathe. Maya joined her, umbrella in hand. You ready to rest? Jordan smiled faintly. Rest is a privilege. I'm still dismantling. They walked toward the street, two silhouettes cutting through the glare of city lights. Unhurried, unafraid. 2 months later, the headlines had dulled. The frenzy was over. The world had moved to its next outrage. But in the quiet spaces, city offices, courtrooms, backrooms of newsrooms, the shockwaves of Jordan Ellison's fights still rolled. The Department of Metropolitan Enforcement had a new interim chief. The old one was facing a plea deal. Officer Hale, stripped of his badge, was now under federal investigation for civil rights violations. The scandal had pulled 6 officials into scrutiny. But justice was never cinematic. It didn't arrive with music. It arrived in paperwork, audits, resignations. Jordan sat alone in her office on the 57th floor, staring at the skyline. The glass was spotless. The city below gray with winter fog. On her desk, a single framed newspaper headline, Black CEO exposes corruption network. She hadn't framed it. Maya had. Her assistant buzzed in. Miss Ellison, you have a visitor. He says his name's Hale. Jordan froze. Send him up, she said. The elevator doors opened. Hale looked smaller, without his uniform. The swagger was gone, but not the defiance. He stood before her desk, hands in pockets. You shouldn't be here, she said. He smirked faintly. You should have been grateful for a lesson, not revenge. Revenge, she repeated. You think exposure is revenge. It destroyed me. You destroyed yourself. He laughed under his breath. You don't get it. The system doesn't care about me either. I'm just another name they'll burn to protect their image. Jordan rose slowly. So now, you want pity. I want acknowledgement, he said. That I was playing by the rules they trained me under. You think this is about me. It's bigger than that. Jordan studied him. Then you should have known what you were building. He stepped closer. You talk about systems like they're separate from people. But people are the system. You and me both. You built yours in marble and stock markets. I built mine in asphalt and law. You're no different. Her voice stayed even. The difference is, I stopped pretending mine was righteous. He blinked, something faltering behind his eyes. You'll learn what it costs to stand alone. I already did. He turned to leave, but paused at the door. They'll replace me. They always do. Jordan didn't answer. When he was gone, she sank back into her chair, exhaustion seeping through the facade of composure. That evening, she met Maya at a small cafe downtown. No cameras, no suits, just the two of them. Maya stirred her tea. He actually came to see you. Yes. What did he want? Validation, blame, a witness. Maya leaned back. You think he's right, that the system just replaces faces. Jordan watched raindrops collect on the window. Yes. But replacements don't erase exposure. Every repetition leaves a record. Maya nodded. So what now? Jordan looked up. Now I build something cleaner. Not an empire, a mirror. Weeks later, a press release hit the wires. Equity Initiative launches new platform to audit corporate and public sector accountability, funded by Ellison Holdings. News anchors called it radical transparency. Lobbyists called it unrealistic. But people started sending stories, small, local injustices, misuses of power, contracts signed in silence. Jordan's inbox filled with names. Her team built algorithms to trace patterns. Within a month, several institutions quietly rewrote their policies. The system hadn't fallen, but it was beginning to flinch. Late one night, Jordan stood on the balcony again. The city pulsed below, not peaceful, but alive. Maya joined her with 2 mugs of coffee. You ever miss the quiet? Maya asked. I used to. Now I think quiet's overrated. They stood in silence for a moment. The air carried the sound of traffic, distant sirens, and rain beginning to fall again. Maya broke it softly. You know, people think you won. Jordan's gaze stayed on the horizon. Winning's a story they tell so they can stop listening. So what do you call it? She turned slightly. An interruption. Maya smiled faintly. Then, let's make it permanent. Jordan nodded. That's the point. Across the city, a young intern in a news outlet uploaded a new file drop, internal emails from another department, another chain of silence. The cycle was beginning again. But now, people were watching differently. And in one small apartment across town, a mother told her son, see her? That woman on the screen. She made them listen. The boy nodded, eyes wide. Was she scared? She was, the mother said, and she spoke anyway. Back on the balcony, Jordan finished her coffee, feeling the weight of everything she'd built, not an empire, but an echo chamber of truth that refused to fade. The rain intensified, washing the glass towers in liquid reflection. The city glimmered like a confession. Maya turned to go inside. Jordan lingered. Everything starts with laughter, she murmured, and ends when it echoes back. Her phone buzzed with another message. Anonymous. The system blinked. Keep pushing. She looked out into the storm and whispered, almost to herself, good. Then she went back inside.